Good to see you. What's your question?
Hi, hi, Joe. Am I audible?
Yeah, I can
Hear me
hear.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So last week's pointing served very well. And as I got a chance to kind of just switching my mind as you asked me to, uh, I realized something that what has stopped or has prevented this silence to become more steady and more long term has been an underlying fear, which I can now sense. I've sensed it before, but I can see that there is a fear that keeps pushing me into my mind, where I'm constantly going to it to handle things and essentially not do what you keep referring to, which is let things be, let things be as they are. And the fear, I guess, is that maybe as while growing up, or uh, um, when I looked around, I was fairly sensitive. I could see there are things that can happen to me, and a belief developed that if it were to happen to me, the intensity of those things is so strong that I won't be able to handle it. Essentially, a belief is there that there are certain things I can't just let them be if they were to happen to me. And I need to use my mind to prevent that from happening in advance. This is the only thing I have to somehow negotiate a favorable outcome, if it were to happen. And because there is a fair amount of faith in my mental abilities, I mean, I do have a fairly sharp mind, which has gotten me out of difficult situations before, but has taken me into much bigger problems than I eventually got out of. Well, I can see that, but this is the only thing that I have, and this is where as far as I can see now, what I what I'm trying to do now is just sit with that fear, because until I kind of move past that fear, to be able to truly do what you keep referring to is allow things to be as they are, will not be possible.
Okay. So who fears?
I haven't paid too much attention to who fears. I just realized that there is fear.
That doesn't time with what you said earlier. It definitely feels like that you are discussing about you stopping yourself, letting things be as they are because you fear. If there was only fear
Ah,
disappearing on its own, then you would be that would be a more comfortable experience. There does seem to be that, like when you share it, it's good, and it sounds like um, that you're engaged, very much still engaged in this process. The image that came to mind is a boy wanting to go into a paddling pool. This just came randomly. A boy wanting to go into a paddling pool and it's scared, and it's going back and forth between the paddling pool and not being a paddling pool. And then there's like a father figure watching it who doesn't really mind whether the boy goes in the pool or not. It's like it sees the game. It sees the game at play. And for you, it's really important that you ask, when these things come, who is the one experiencing these fears? Who is the one that's very, very active in this process? Because there is a part of you that's just watching. There's a part of you that's just watching. It's just watching this. If you can do it right now, you'll see that there's thoughts. You can hear my voice. And there's your story that you've told. There's your relationship with these teachings and images of past. And there's something that's just watching.
yes. It's
And
awareness that watches, yes.
that part that's watching, can that feel fear?
No, it contains fear.
What is it? What if it contains fear?
It carries fear. Fear appears in it.
Fear appears in it. So can the fear that appears within that knowing self affect the knower, you?
No, what it does is kicks something else. Yeah, that's what happens.
But
So the
not
fear
you, but
just
not
kicks a response. Yeah,
right. But it doesn't affect the knower. So what's
doesn't.
happening with you is that when these things come along, rather than being the knower, and this is very common, like the whole world does this, so it's not like you're doing anything wrong. But what happens is you jump back into the story. Whenever there's
Yes,
anything, you jump back into the story, and then you start trying to do non-duality from duality, and it just gets very confusing, right? It's very confusing. How can I
yeah.
find this? How can I let go of this fear? What can I do to become more awake? That character is already completely awake from the perspective of the knower, but from the perspective of the character, it can never be awake.
This is what I used to do. What I have changed, which has worked a little bit, is when I jump onto that story and it's frightening or there's anxiety or whatever that is, I have learned to at least let it be, at least that anxiety be. I
Good.
don't fight it as much as I used to.
That's good.
That
But
much,
for you, I would inquire, who is that? Am I that? Am I this thought? Like, if I am that, then what knows it? Like for you, it's very clear that direct inquiry can be quite useful, because whenever we go down that path, like the when the last session we did, when at the end we just said, just stop, just shh.
yeah, yeah,
It's getting out of the game,
yes,
right? You can't find. It's like the way that I would describe it right now is that there's a screen, and there's an actor on the screen, which is your appearance of self. And this actor's going through these stories trying to liberate itself. But really, the screen is who you are. The field in which you're appearing is your nature, not what's appearing. Now, they're not two. That's why it's called non-duality. The appearance of you in the screen as this actor and the screen are not two. However, it's very easy for you to collapse into the character, so there's no more screen. And when we do that, it's great from the perspective of the movie, because we believe everything. But we lose, but we're not trying to engage in the movie here. We're trying to, not even trying, we're exploring liberation. And liberation is a stepping back to just, I'm also the screen. A little intermediate step could be like, I'm the one watching the movie. So we put another character in there rather than the screen, which can seem a little bit difficult for some people. I'm watching the movie, or I'm projecting. I've got the projector. I'm projecting the movie, and you're going to get absorbed into the character and the story. But the practice isn't to try and figure out the story, which is what you sometimes do, or even try to allow the story to be as it is from the position of the person in the movie. It's to completely come back and just be like, I'm just watching this movie.
mm,
I'm just watching this thing. And it becomes like, one thing that happens is that it becomes less interesting, right?
yes,
How you're relating to it, you're still very interested in all of this. and it just will exhaust. It will exhaust. It's exhausting. But when you're sitting there, you know you're no longer so engaged. Then all of the engagement faculties, it just becomes more relaxing. One way I often describe it is, it's like if you were born in if you were born in a cinema, and you never knew any other world. All you knew was the cinema and the movies that appeared. You would be crying at any death, totally devastated, terrified of what was coming next, grossly in love when it was a love movie. You'd be lost completely to every movie. And that can be fun in some parts of life, but it's actually exhausting. And that's how most people live. They don't, that they're in these movies, and that it's all so important. It's so important. What Karen said at work, what my paycheck is, what my partner said, what am I going to do tomorrow? It's just so intensely important. And then you're in this cinema, and someone actually says to you, have you ever seen outside the cinema? You're like, what do you mean? Like, no, I've never seen that. And they take you to a door, and they show you that you've been living in a cinema your whole life. They explain what movies are. So this is insight. This isn't someone in the cinema going, I'm going to allow this movie to be as it is, but they still think they're in a cinema, because that's very hard to do, right? The allowing things to be as they are is significantly easier when someone shows you this is just a cinema. There's a projector, and these films are made by people, and they're all actors. And then when you go back into the cinema, you still enjoy the movie, which is our actual reality at the cinema. But then when we come out, we have a little bit of a chit chat about the story, and we go on about our day. I didn't spend months because Spider-Man died, or whatever, and now like my life is ruined. It's entertainment, and it's good, and there, and it's the same with our lives. And it's not to belittle the tragedies that occur in our lives. We don't snicker at the death of a loved one. But what happens is that because we're the one who knows that it's a cinema, it gives us the capacity to feel fully in these difficult events, but also maintain stability for everybody else. And what's happening in your case is that you are not providing the stability for yourself. You are jumping in to the foray, and this is not saying you're doing anything wrong. Everybody does this anyway, but just from the perspective of these non-duality paths, you are jumping into the foray, and your job as true nature is to wake up and say, no, we don't even need to figure out who's thinking, who's fear, why is it any of that matters when we truly know that it's just awareness, it's just consciousness, the dynamic energy of consciousness appearing in a myriad of ways, this great display, this one unified realm of singularity that is also has this quality to be so dynamic and movement. When we truly know what that is, we never even need to do a practice. I recommend it, but we don't actually even need to practice, because we already know. We know the nature. We know it's a cinema, right? That is the difference. If you're in a cinema and you're watching a scary movie and fear comes up, there's not one part of you that says, right, I need to figure out why I'm feeling fear. What should I do about this fear? I think maybe I should see a therapist. Or no, the fear comes up, and it's not like you're trying to be with it. That's why you went to the cinema. That's why you're there, to experience that. So why would you then need to massage and work on it? You've arrived in this realm as consciousness to enjoy all of this.
So are you asking me to at this moment step back a little bit, something like a neti, or you're saying
inquire inquire into when these things appear, inquire into their nature. And I'm not saying you're going to come up with any particular answer. Just say, what is this? Because it's just going to prevent a little bit the total engagement. What is this? And because you're a very, like, you've been doing this for a long time, so you've all of the insight is there. It's just what's in front of it is the mind going bunk, like
Yes.
jumping in.
Yes.
And all you need to do is just allow the wisdom that you've already accumulated to be present first. What is this? Whatever it is, who is that? Why is that? What is going on with that? Let's just look at that. What is that fear? Oh, it's just appearing. Like it's going to create time for your already ingrained understanding to become a support to your life, rather than that. Because minds are very, like, powerful minds are useful, but they can really get in the way sometimes of
that's what's happening.
Because but let me just say one thing before we degrade the mind. They're beautiful. It's amazing that you have such an active mind. It's a phenomenon. Like the story I told last week, I think it was last week, about the guy saying, yeah, but look at the TV. Yeah, but look at the mind. Wow. Like when you have that, I would be sitting there going, like, my mind would say something really stupid to me. And like, I used to get a lot of critical voices. You're rubbish at whatever it is. Your music is terrible. And that used to make me not play music when I was younger. And through this process of awakening, that voice, I'm like, wow, isn't that amazing? That I can experience that there's something in me that can look at some activity that I'm doing and decide it's, I used to find it quite funny, quite genius in a way. So love your mind, love it from its act, from like the TV. Don't get so involved in what it's doing. Be more fascinated that it does. That it does. It's the doing, the mind doing, that's the most interesting thing about the mind, not what it's doing. That is doing. Think about it. Fear, hunger, regret, grief, worry, confusion, awakening, pleasure, problem solving, just, protection, all the things it's doing. It's way more interesting that it does. Wow, my mind does. That's what I'm saying with you. Like, appreciate become the magnanimous. The Tibetans use the monarch. They call the consciousness the monarch of life, and they use that because it's this posture where you are the monarch of your own experience. Consciousness, you, is the monarch of all experience, and it just enjoys the jester and the show of itself, without becoming too involved. And then it becomes enjoyable. You start to laugh, honestly, you start to laugh. You start to laugh so much at yourself. I remember when I first realized that the entire first, 30 years of my life, or whatever it was centered around 5 different things. It was like food, dating, money, how much I don't like myself, and how much other people don't like me. Those 5 thoughts were just everything. And I was like, there is a lot more experiences going on than, why do I pick those 5? So I'll just say one thing. So we all have this. This is an extension of what I'm saying. We all have this focus that the mind is on. And it's whatever's going on, and it can be very repetitive. So I just said what mine was. Someone else might be, I'm depressed, I don't like my family. I really like. I'm here. I'm here for my kids. I like my job as an engineer, but how am I going to like? It might be that, right? What we encourage is perceptual openness. Perceptual openness is when you're resting as awareness, and those 5 things become diluted into all experience: the wind from the fan, the sense of spaciousness, the voice I can hear down the hallway, the camera, the lighting, the breathing, the bodily sensations. It's all just gently bubbling along, and you're not being fixated. You're not collapsing into any one particular object. Now, we will do, if I want to drink a cup of my tea, I momentarily focus on here. I notice that it's empty and full rage comes up. I'm only joking. I notice it's empty and I put it down. So I momentarily focused in, but I'm not living in that intensity of focus, right? And the most complicated thing we can focus on that intensely is ourselves. If you ever want to get completely lost, right, focus on your brain patterns as if they really matter all day, every day, right? They really don't matter. So you develop perceptual openness. You're open, you're relaxed. You're not giving more quality or more status to one appearance over the other. And this gets very, very deep because it's part of the Dzogchen process, or the emptiness of all experience. And they will say things like, the cup as awareness is no more important than your very life. As awareness, it's just awareness. So imagine the screen I mentioned earlier. The cup on the screen is just as valid as the actor on the screen. They're just screen. But if you buy into the story, then the actor, me, is way more important than the cup. Now, I'm not saying we should adjust all, start saying stupid stuff like, rights for cups or no rights for people. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about our true understanding, our true nature. That's all we're talking about here. And from that perspective, resting, perceptual open, allowing all experience to heave ho without so much attachment or no sense of personal self. You hear it saying there's just happening, there's just happening. That's a more Advaita Vedanta way of talking about it, but it's the same thing. There's just appearances rising and falling, and I'm one of them, and so is everything I think and feel. But they're just all rising and falling, and I can allow that, the whole heave-ho, but not because I'm trying to allow it, because I know what it is. It's just consciousness, it's insight into the nature of self that creates liberation.